Bro,
That's not a topic
my
of
life is
discussion.
awkward. It's all good.
Three, two, one. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to yet another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys growing on you live. Today, I'm so excited for our guest, the one and only Luke Abbey. There's only so many ways that I can introduce this guy before I just keep on spewing and keep on going. Super excited. He's been, behind the throne there for so many bands. We're about to get into that, so just you stay tuned. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man.
This is the best. Now I see me and you.
Oh, holy
It's
shit.
all coming together.
Little by little. It's just going to take a little time, man. All right.
Sorry about that, man.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. Like I say, I can edit all this too. So as far as, it's going to be seamless as far as, like the video goes. So not a problem at all. So now if you could pick a dream side project with any four members, dead or alive, what would your band be?
Are we talking like hardcore? Or
any genre, man. You just if you're wanting to play drums in a band and you're like, man, I have to play with this guy, this girl, just whatever. Any other four people.
Wow. What a cool question. I've never really I've never really thought about that. I mean, within hardcore there's definitely guys who I've never played with before who I think I'd really love to, even if it's just a show kind of thing. I've never played with Craig. I've known Craig for a million years. I would love to, do something with him. I get to play with a lot of the people that I really like. I spent a lot of time in Austin, Texas, and I did a band there. I joined this band called East Cameron Folk Corps, and it was this 8-piece band, and the players in that band were they taught me a lot, man. And like I would play with any of those guys ever, like in a heartbeat. As far as gosh, man, I never really got to play with Todd from Warzone. I played one song with him. He hopped on stage at a Gorilla Biscuits show, and we played a Warzone cover. And then we were talking about setting up this reunion thing, and it just kind of never the lineup with playing with him never actually went through. But I would have always that was something I kind of feel bad that I never really got to jam with. Gosh, man, that's something I got to think on. You know what I mean? It's sort of there's keyboard players out there I love. I get to play with a lot of people. I play in a band. The guys I play with now in Gorilla Biscuits are, it's a ton of fun. We've got Charlie playing in the band now, and Arthur and Walter. All the three of those guys are just phenomenal musicians, and we've all been playing together a really long time. Not as us with Charlie, but Charlie's been playing with them too for a very long time, and it's just super tight. We're able to kind of be really, really agile with the songs and stuff. So, that's something I should give some more thought. You know what I mean?
It's a great answer, but it's one of those things to where, with some of the guests that I'm getting, I like to ask just because, if you ask me, it would be the majority of the people that I'm talking to. But then, like you guys, like you said, you went on Persistence Tour and you're with Agnostic Front, you're with all these other cats that it's just like, from my point of view as being a fan, it's like, oh my God, all of those bands are on tour right now. Like they just get to hang out. Like, what is that like?
It's super fun, and that's the kind of thing too. It's like any of those bands, like I just, I like those kind of tours and playing. I enjoy the playing so much, but like being up there and like watching everybody else enjoy themselves playing, it's like this whole, just like, it's like this energy loop. It just, excuse me, it just kind of feeds back. You watch people play, you get motivated to play, and it's like, you know, it's a really, 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 really good scene. You know, like any of those bands. I mean, I love hardcore so much, and I've been playing it so long. I would, you know, I would feel comfortable playing with most bands, and would love to, kind of in just that way of getting to experience it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, primarily, the following that I have on my page here is the horror community and horror fans. But then I'm also a drummer in a hardcore band, and so I like to incorporate that, and I post about different musicians and albums coming out and stuff too.
Yeah.
So, but now where to start, even as far as all the bands that you've been in and all the albums that are just absolute classics and, you know, are essential hardcore albums. Can you give us a little rundown of some of the stuff that you've been on, just as far as for some of the viewers that are going to see this that might not be familiar?
Yeah, I mean, I've played on lots of stuff, I think, but excuse me, I mean, the stuff,
to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Thank you. You know, sometimes it feels, you know, I mean, I've grown up with people and played with a lot of people who I still play with, who, I mean, think I've been on, like, played on a lot of things, you know, who have played, like, these guys have played on, you know, everything.
Legitimately. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so it's like, so it's, you know, sort of the world I live in. I feel like, yeah, I've got a kind of good body of recorded work. I think, like, you know, the Gorilla Biscuit recordings, the Warzone, that first Warzone LP, those are probably the ones that have, you know, gotten me, you know, the most sort of exposure as far as that goes. I don't, you know, like you were mentioning that band, like Moondog. I mean, that Moondog recording was, I mean, that entire process from writing the songs, practicing the songs, recording them, and that was never meant to actually be released. I mean, we're talking like probably 3 or 4 practices, rehearsals, recording. I mean, that's like we're talking like a 2-week project. That whole thing was,
wow.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
that's sort of gone on.
Yeah. Okay.
Great stuff. I really, that's something I would have liked to, that had a really kind of weird sleeper spot and everything, and that those songs have sort of just, it's sort of like they've been like sort of on ice in a kind of way. They never really, they don't really, I don't think they really fit like an era as far as like the sound of it. They kind of like can kind of transcend all that stuff. It can sound like sort of like that 80s stuff, but it also, you know, can kind of fit in with like even think, you know, stuff that you're hearing coming out today, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, how did the whole alpha jerk thing come along as far as like Derek Green?
Yeah, it's you know, it goes on. There's some bands I even forget about doing stuff with. That was, so I left New York. I pretty much have not lived in New York for more than a couple of years over the past like 30 years, and I spent 2 years there in the mid-90s. And it was Derek and a good buddy of mine named Chris, who I'd met through going to school, this woman named Sarah who played bass, and they had a drummer, this guy Nick, who played in this band Sweet Diesel, who were really also underrated band. They were great. And I'm not sure what happened. I think he just left or I just joined or whatever. And so we just played for like a year. We didn't do a whole heck of a lot. We recorded a couple of songs for this compilation, I think.
Yeah.
We went out on the road for like a really short thing with like the Lunatics. Played like local shows, but it was fun, man. It was sort of like we were kind of like feeling out our sound. The guitar player and I had played a whole lot together over the previous years. Not really hardcore stuff, more like we were both really into like Hendrix and Jane's Addiction and the Allman Brothers. So it was kind of like that thing. And Derek wanted to do something sort of more musical. He was learning how to play guitar, so he was playing guitar and singing. So it was a real kind of cool blend of stuff. And then we just split up. I moved to Texas, and Derek got offered the position singing for Sepultura.
Yeah.
Good move.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one way, I guess, to make up for leaving your last band.
Yeah. Oh no, oh, my gosh. I mean, he's a prolific dude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And huge presence. You know, great singer, great frontman for sure.
Yeah,
Great
for sure.
musician overall.
Yeah. So now you being a drummer, what are some of your earlier memories as far as when you first got excited to pick up, the instrument? Was there specific bands, specific drummers, specific tracks, songs?
Yeah. I mean, my earliest kind of like, you know, I wanted to play music because I was into music. It was not, there's my grandmother played piano, but like, not like, you know, she was my grandmother who had her piano in her house and played piano. She wasn't like, she wasn't playing boogie woogie and rocking or nothing. But there was no, like my house, there was always music in my house. So I just kind of like latched onto it really early. It was really like, I don't know, I just connected with it. The idea of being a musician was never something that I really thought about. And then I was at a friend's house who ended up becoming a very, like, extremely good guitar player. And his father was a drummer, and he had a real, you know, he had a set of drums. And that was the first time I, like, hit a real set of drums. And I still remember where the drum set was set up, everything. This, like, old, just, you know, pretty standard Pearl set. And I just remember hitting the bass drum the first time, the snare drum, and just like, you know, it's like a kid eating ice cream for the first time. Like, what was that? Like, I need to do that again. Like, I need another bite. And I just kept doing it. And I was just so sort of enthused. I kind of got ahead of myself. And I wanted to play everything. You know what I mean? I would listen to Jimi Hendrix, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to, you know, rock all this out. So I was always like, I always pushed it. I always heard stuff in my head. I always wanted to be playing at a higher level. I didn't really put in the time to get there. So I was always very stretched. My ideas in my head as far as playing and what I wanted to do were beyond my physical abilities. It took me a long time to kind of catch up with that. So it would be this thing where it would be like, you know, my abilities would kind of catch up with what was in my head, and then my head would take off again. And that was a long process of learning. You know what I mean? It led to a lot of creativity in my playing, but it also led to a lot of like fucking up, playing off time, experimenting, and, you know, like causing sort of like issues as far as getting band stuff tight. And then I would sort of like dial it back down. You know what I mean? And then I'd kind of like slowly, like, you know, just kind of like a drummer, like the pace kind of keeps speeding up. And that was kind of like, you know, I did that on a micro level and a macro level. And so it took a long time. It took till after I sort of like left the hardcore scene for a while, started getting into like really sort of focusing on branching out and playing slower music, that I started to kind of like just kind of bring everything back down, kind of strip down all the excess, which I think is sort of natural progression for drummers. You know, you want to throw everything into it, and then it's sort of this process of elimination. Yeah, I think
Especially with writing, I was gonna say.
Yeah, you know, it's you know, and you know, as you get to be a drummer, it's like, you know, you start to learn. It's like it sort of seems like there's this whole trajectory of like playing a lot and bringing it back down, and then seeing what's essential. And then you start to layer it again, you know, because you can watch guys, you know, I can watch guys play, you know, you watch fucking Steve Jordan play, and it's like he makes so much out of so little. And then you can watch a guy like Dave Weckl or this guy like Eric Moore play, and, you know, it's just as incredible on the same level, but on a different level. You know, it's all part of the same thing. Right. But, you know, the thing that all those guys have in common is they're all just locked in. You know what I mean? Right. You know, that's a big thing. It took me, I think, one of the things that really changed my whole drumming and allowed me to become like, allowed me to kind of settle down was I played with this guy, Zowie, who's a bass player. He played in that band Leeway, played in the band Circus of Power. Phenomenal bass player. He'd spent a lot of time playing with Mackie, too. And Sleepy Lopez, what's up, Eric? and we got along really well, and he was a guy who like identified a lot of the issues in my playing and was just like, no, and just really kind of like set me straight on where I needed to be. That was like a huge turning point in my drumming, because like I wasn't really, it was the mid 90s, I kind of like disappeared a little bit. And that was the guy that like really like said, like just kind of shifted everything for me to make it realize like just where my focus should be and where I should start to be like building stuff around. And that was huge. I mean, that was a long time ago too, but it's big. It's weird where you get your influences as far as being a drummer goes and that kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I get a lot of them straight from drummers and straight from lessons, but I also get a lot of it from like my life, you know, and just what I experience. I really like the idea of being able to try and incorporate my experience into my playing, you know. Not all the time. I mean, I have a really pretty phenomenal opportunity with Gorilla Biscuits to do that, because it's like these songs that we've been playing for 30 years. It's like that I'm so intimate with, and we've like, you know, that are kind of us in a way. And so it's like there's a freedom in there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to be able to see, because like recently I talked to Armand, and it's just so crazy, you know, being a musician and thinking of somebody being in the same band or playing the same songs for 30 some years, you know, and it really shows through and through, as far as, you know, whether it's the phases of certain people that kind of come and go, or through and through, it's these same acts that are sticking around, and they're around for the reason of it being such solid music from day one.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think Gorilla Biscuits is a sort of a little bit of an anomaly in there, just in terms of there's a lot of different variables that I think all come together to make that band what it is and what we do. But yeah, I mean, you know, when you're playing the same songs for that long a time, you know, I think there's that idea of like, oh my gosh, you got to play like this song again. You got to play that song again. But I think when you're really playing them and you're into it and you're present with it, it's, you know, I mean, there's a real kind of love and connection with it. It doesn't feel like going. It never feels like going through the motions. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's you know, maybe it's kind of like you gotta, you know, it's kind of like you got to get out the door, and once you get out the door, you're in it. Right. And it's you know, I think that's kind of what I think allows at least our band to kind of excel, is that we're just, I think, very present in it. You know what I mean? And the music, and that's the kind of music. I mean, hardcore music especially, man. It's got to be alive. You know what I mean? If it's too regimented and the same thing over and over, you know, it gets to be, I think it just gets to wear on you, you know?
Yeah. I you know, and I would have to imagine that it'd be inspiring too, seeing the ever changing, you know, youth, as far as the, you know, some of the cats that are coming to shows, and constantly seeing new faces, and then some of the same faces year after year after year, you know. That's an element to.
And you hit a really huge point that I missed too. And the fact is, it's like, you know, it's one thing, you know, playing hardcore too, when you're playing and, you know, you got your eyes out, you're watching people like lose their shit, have a great time, smile, laugh, joke around. And it's like you keep going with it. You feel the responsibility and you're loving it. And like I said, it's kind of like, it's like, yo, it's like that thing where you're getting more and more jazzed by it, you know? So it's like, it's a good thing to be around. And that's, I mean, you know, if it wasn't for that, you know, I mean, that is a huge thing that drew me into playing hardcore originally. You know, I'd never, you know, I mean, I love to play drums, but I never really like thought I was like a good drummer kind of thing. You know what I mean? But I wanted to play, and hardcore was sort of like, hey, here's something I can do. Here's a music that like I connect with, but I don't need to be like, you know, Joe Prodigy to like really like get into it, you know? And then over time, it's like pretty amazing that because I mean, I can tell you like straight up that most of the guys who are still playing now, these hardcore guys, most of these guys couldn't really play when we started, and now most of these guys like can really play. You know what I mean? Like they're not just like good at what they're doing; they're fucking great. You know, and have taken this whole other energy that hardcore provides and incorporated into music. And I mean, look at the way big rock bands play now. I mean, look at the influence of this music that it's had. You know, like that it's just been pervasive through every kind of scene. You know, and you know, and that energy is generated by that kind of music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The energy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of it, man. You know.
What was your first drum kit? Do you remember some of the specifics with it?
I still got it. Yeah, it's a Pearl Export. I
Same here, dude.
And but it was basically my friend's father, that first kit that I played on. He gave my father. He was like, get him one of these kind of thing. So it was, but he got my pop got me. It was no floor tom. So it was a 4-piece kit, but it was a rack tom. It was rack floor. It was rack, snare, kick drum. 3-piece kit? Yeah, 3-piece kit. Sorry.
Oh, really? Weird. Okay.
So, for the longest time, that's all I played on. You know what I mean? And then it wasn't until every show I would go to, I would have to borrow a floor tom. No, I'm sorry. It was a 4-piece kit. It was 2 rack toms, but no floor tom. So every show I'd go to, I'd have to borrow a floor tom.
Oh, wow.
Like even that Don't Forget the Struggle record, we rolled in there and I was like, hey, we're good, but I don't have a floor tom. Do you guys have a floor tom? You know what I mean? Okay. And then finally,
did
like somebody.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Somebody gave me one somewhere along the way, and I think it's still in my basement.
Damn, okay. Did you mention at some point that you had rack toms at one point that are as big as your floor tom is now?
So there was, it was my second set actually, and Dean, who played drums in Underdog, Russ's younger brother, he had this Tama Grand Star oversized kit. It was a gunmetal gray, 24-inch kick. The toms I think the rack tom was like 14 inches deep. The high rack tom, you know, just enormous kit. And I was like, that kit sounds great. And I got the exact same kit he got.
Damn.
And I mean, the thing is huge. There's some pictures every once in a while you'll see. I mean, it's like, I think it was I think the high rack was a 13-inch head by like 14 inches deep. It was the craziest, most ridiculous sizes ever. The shittiest like Omni-Lock Tama shit that was like, it was bigger than a house, man. I had no business on that kit.
Damn,
sounded really cool. That's what I recorded Start Today on. It was a really good sounding kit. I mean, like I played it with like clear pinstripes, so it was, it sounded like I was playing kettle drums. You know what I mean? It's huge.
Yeah. Okay.
I love playing a 24-inch kick. It's a little hard for me to play real fast stuff, just because I'm all of 5'4", and it's getting around on these big kits. It can be a little tricky, and and I like to try and I fucked up my shoulder a number of years ago, and after that I started kind of concentrating on keeping my arms down a little more, being like a lot more wrist oriented. So playing on bigger kits now is just a little more challenging for me. But I mean, the sound of a 24-inch kick, just so good, and slow it down and just bottom into the sunset, man.
Yeah. This is actually going into my next question as far as your drum breakdown with your specs. And I'm going to have kind of sub questions in this as far as your cymbals, your drum sizes, your sticks, pedals, and even your throne. So first of all, your cymbals, what are you going with nowadays?
So I've been working with Peisty for it's been, I don't know, I think maybe 13 years or something. Okay. So I was really, I got a whole bunch of stuff. It's been a while since I've gotten new stuff. It's been a long time since I got new stuff that fits Gorilla Biscuits. But usually for that, I've been using those, like, usually they're 2002 series. They had a series called Wild Ones, which I really like. Just their straight 2002 rock stuff. Those Sound Edge hi-hats I've been playing with. I'd like to get something a little kind of crisper. And then as far as like what I have set up at home, because I mean, it's been a long time since Gorilla Biscuits has got to go out and I use my own stuff. So I'm usually getting backline from someplace, and it tends to vary. At home, I've got a lot of these like signatures and masters, dark crashes and rides that I got for this band, East Cameron Folkcore, which just like the fucking just beautiful sounds. You know what I mean? Like just really, really just pretty. You know what I mean? I really want to just let them sing. Kit wise, I've been playing this SJC kit, the same kit they built me about 14 years ago. I'm looking to get something else as soon as, you know.
SJC, he needs some shit.
No. Oh, no. I've been the greatest dudes ever. I didn't have a kit, and when Gorilla Biscuits decided that we were going to do a tour again, I completely cold emailed Mike from SJC, and 2 minutes later my phone rang, and like an hour later, like we were friends and had things going on, and those dudes at that drum company are phenomenal guys. They do such badass work. Just good people, man. Like really glad to like work with them and play their stuff. You know,
that's all I hear about SJC. Honestly, is just the utmost respect.
I mean, like, it's funny, man. I'll talk to Mike a little bit once in a while, like, how's it going? And he's just like, because they do everything. And he's sort of like, I wish kind of like sometimes we don't put out all these custom options because people come up with just the craziest ideas. And then they're like, okay, well, let's do it. But they do it. And they're just like, you know, mind-blowing shit. Lights and, you know, fucking dancing bears and whatever there's all sorts of shit going on.
Right,
but
super, maybe a little too many options.
super solid drums. I still have the same resonant heads on my kit on the toms for the past like 14 years. I still every time I still change the heads, it's like I can still smell like a little bit of like the varnish inside. It's like I love that kit, man. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. For
and then other gear, I guess. I've been playing with.
Where do you go with sticks? Your stick size.
Vader sticks. I use these Josh Freeze model. It's sort of like in between a 5A and a 5B. Wood tip. It's pretty. I don't really like playing with too heavy a stick. I used to play with them, and then I was just smashing cymbals and just playing through stuff too fast. So I kind of, I've kind of varied around a little bit. They make these sticks called a Fatback 3A, and for like, if I'm not playing for like sort of slower, just more heavier stuff, I love those. And then they have another stick called the Studio 2, which is actually thinner, but it's got this nice like, like fat, like barrel, like wood tip, barrel tip. And so it's like a nice sort of like thin, really balanced stick, but it's but it kind of comes through, it cuts through with that heavy head. So I like those. Those Josh Freeze the sticks are great. You know what I mean?
Okay. What about your pedal?
DW 9000 single pedal. I've had the same thing, man, I still even have my like strap pedal that I bust out once in a while. You know what I mean? But that's it, man. I've never really like. I tried to play double bass drum for a little while. I got my friend hooked me up with it was a DW 9000 pedal, and I just never felt comfortable integrating it into everything. Mm-hmm. I was more like I would like play a double bass drum beat, and then go back to playing drums, and then play. I just couldn't like. It just didn't really. It was too much to try and fit into like writing music and getting like comfortable with. And I spent so much time like developing just my right foot that I kind of I feel sort of like an old dog kind of learning new tricks.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
What about the old drum throne? It's very much a thing that people look by, but man, if you get a nice drum throne, I'm telling you what,
Yeah,
your ass, your back.
I know. I could probably use a new one. I have. It's just a straight. I think it's a DW. I like simple stuff. I don't like. I've never played with like an actual seat back. Which
Yeah.
I don't know why I would. You know what I mean? Unless I was like gonna have a beer in between fucking songs or something. But
Right.
I don't like those. And the motorcycle seats, like the actual the bicycle looking seats, I can't stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it a lot of stuff. I sit with my seat kind of high. And I don't really I try and kind of like come off of it a little bit, especially from my foot. I've watched, as far as like playing hardcore, if I ever need to go to the source, I dial up my fucking Mackie imagery to figure out how to make things work. And he definitely sort of from watching him, I definitely started like raising my seat a little bit to kind of get a little more on it. So it's sort of, so as far as the throne goes, man, as long as it's solid and not going to fucking collapse on me, I'm good,
Yeah. Okay. Now, you being first and foremost a music fan, when you were younger, did you have certain like local shops that you like to go to that, would get all your needs, earlier records that you were picking up?
Well, I mean, as far as like music stores go, 48th Street, in New York, where like Manny's,
Okay.
Sam Ash, and all like the music, like that was the music block.
Okay.
That was where I'd go for everything. That was where probably all my all my gear was bought. Music, as far as records and all that goes, I think the first shop that I used to go to was called Free Being. It was on 2nd Avenue, just right by the corner between 7th and 8th, 7th and St. Mark's.
Okay.
That was probably the first record store that I used to hang out at. And then Some Records was like sort of the local hardcore spot where kind of that became the go-to spot. There was, Bleecker Bob's was around, and Venus, and Rat Cage was around, but I was too young to head over there. Those were pretty much the shops,
Okay. So,
Hi, Freya.
Going back to your setup and everything, as far as your drum setup, what do you like with, do you like your floor tom to be flush with your snare, your cymbals a little higher, your rack tom canted? What are some specifics with that?
Yeah, I'm really particular about where my stuff is, and a lot of that's because of how how far I get with everything, right. And also just how I like to be able to hit stuff. I mean, so sometimes I can sit down and just it's there and I'm good to go. Sometimes I will be dealing with the fucking 1 degree angle or something back and forth. Get you get that little thing in your head eh. Yeah. But no, I sit with everything's generally pretty low. Everything's generally pretty flat. I don't keep my rack tom flat, it's not like Roy or Igor or Alan or something. It's not like I'm not trying to hit it on the other side kind of thing.
I've never understood that. It's just not
it's
something
great.
that's ever fit me either.
Yeah, I mean it's for what I do and for how I go about things, it's too unnatural for me. But if you're able to do it, just the trajectory of your stick hitting the head like that, you're just whacking on it. You're getting such a good sound. And I think it also, the thing about having a kit like that too is you necessarily have to focus on placement a lot more. You can't just kind of rush through it. And so it kind of makes your drumming a little more focused, I think. It makes your drumming a little more intentional, and especially in playing fast music and that kind of stuff. I think that's what distinguishes a lot of like sort of like mid-level drummers from great drummers is that sort of like placement and everything like kind of where it needs to be.
Okay.
But no, so my rack tom is probably tilted towards me a little bit. Cymbals are totally flat. Everything's pretty close together. You know, I like to be able to sit there with kind of like, you know, my hands in front of me and be able to get to everything.
Sure. Sure.
I kind of keep my I tilt my kick drum a little bit more. I used to play it pretty much straight out, but now I kind of like, I have my kick drum kind of out at an angle a little bit, sort of like, you know, instead of maybe like 12 o'clock, it's maybe at like 1 or 2 o'clock.
Oh, I thought you meant
sense?
like tilting it like up. Okay.
No. That's
like
that's
putting it
next,
on an angle.
man.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That's when I do my jetpack kit. No, it just sort of like, because then I'm able to sort of, it just feels more natural to me. Okay. It looks cooler on stage when your bass drum head is facing straight out, but I always feel like I'm kind of shifted, you know? Okay. Like it's like getting your symmetry, you know, getting your balance when you're drumming. That kind of stuff is really really important. I think because it just you put yourself in the right position and the form is going to come easier, you know?
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
I mean that's how I feel, you know. I mean, but then again, it's like, you know, it's like playing baseball. I mean, guys have a million different batting stances and whatever works, you know. I mean, what's that dude's name? I think his name's like Chris Dave. He's a drummer who plays with Jack White a lot. And he's
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Dude, I wouldn't even know where to begin. His snare drum is like basically like facing away from him, and like everything's in like it's like it's I wouldn't know what to do. You know what I mean? But it's like guys have those styles. You know what I mean? Even pitching styles, batting styles. So you know, if you can find the way to get that force, get that energy, get that snap, whatever kind of like works, I think, you know?
Sure. All right. Well, this is wrapping up on your time, dude. If you want to give a pitch, I have one last question. But if you have any plugs.
So I'm actually getting off here in just a little bit, and I've been hanging out with this other drummer. His name's Rooster. His band is called User Unauthorized, and they're out of Austin. I'm friends with his parents. Kid is a badass drummer. And it's like a hard, just good hardcore band. Sounds like stuff that could have been on like a Maximum Rock and Roll compilation from 25 years ago. So it's actually really cool. It's my first foray into, I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm a drum teacher at all, but like working with somebody who knows hardcore and already knows how to play. It's been really, really fun, really, really cool. Sort of like it helps me kind of like develop stuff too. And I think he's digging it. But so if you guys want to check out like new stuff from like kids really getting into it now, man, check out User Unauthorized. Cool. Okay. Cool younger band. I mean, when hardcore bands are, made up of like kids in high school and younger, it has a special place in my heart, man.
It's that youth, man. Yeah, it's the youth. It's the next generations that are coming up and making this shit alive.
Totally, man. I mean, most of the guys still playing this music now are doing it because of something that happened in their life when they were younger, getting involved with this. So, I think it's you gotta pay attention to that and listen. I think it's cool.
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely, man. So the finale, the final segment here. If you could have drummed on any album ever, just off the top of your head, what would it be?
Are you experienced?
I am.
That's the answer, bro. First Hendrix record.
Oh wait, what did you say?
Are you experienced?
It like cut out, so that.
Are you experienced?
Okay.
That and probably every. I think I would play on all the Jimi Hendrix records. I'd probably sit in on
Oh my God,
maybe
yeah.
an Almonds record. I was gonna get in touch with Family Man Barrett and see if I could sit on Catch a Fire too. And then when Bonham couldn't make it, I was gonna go sit in on some of those. So
Dude,
I
you
mean, I'm
thought this
good.
shit out, dude.
Just holler, man. I'm good.
So the camera cut out in the sound, and so all of a sudden I was like, I think he just asked if I'm experienced. I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, I am.
Have you ever been experienced? No, I mean, Jimmy, man. If I could have done anything with Jimmy, that would have been really cool. You know what I mean?
He's the man. He's the man for sure, dude. Look, this is our time, man. I so appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for hanging out with
thanks
me.
for having me, man. And best to you guys. And baba boom.
Yep. You take care. Thank you very much.
Take it easy, bro.
This has been our show. Luke, Abbey. You guys take care of Lo-Fi Horror.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah, baby.